Before we get into some wonderful audience questions, there's so many audience questions, we're going to jump right into that in just a second. I just want to give you guys the opportunity to introduce yourselves, which I think most of these people already know who you are, but just to go ahead and give them a little bit about yourselves.
Hello. My name is David.
Hey, David.
Hey, where's your mic? There we go.
And I'm Noah.
I wasn't cheering after my name. You don't get a second chance. Hey, I'm David Armour. I play Chief Hopper on Stranger Things, and also Hellboy.
Oh, right. And I'm Noah, and I play Will Byers on Stranger Things.
Here. We're really excited to have you guys here. It's not about me though, it's about them, and I want them to have the opportunity to ask questions to you guys, okay? So I'm going to jump right over here because this was the first line I saw that kind of got together. Go ahead and give your name and ask a question.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and my question is, if your characters would have to die, how would you want them to die?
Oh, Elizabeth, that's a great question. Congratulations to season 3 spoilers. Oh, everybody got serious. Noah, I'll have you field this first.
I would want my mom to accidentally kill me.
Oh! Just like hit you with the car in the driveway, or with the axe.
Like, I don't know, she's looking for, she thinks there's
Evil?
I don't know. She like breaks me apart and realizes that like I'm alive.
Oh God.
I don't know, I'll figure it out. What about you?
That's super weird. I would like to take a bullet for 11. And I know I'm happy about me dying.
Thank you very much. We're going to alternate between the two, so right over here.
What's your favorite musical?
What's your favorite musical?
That is a great question. I love Stephen Sondheim musicals. So, we got some Sondheim fans in the Comic-Con community? Wow. So I love a musical called Sunday in the Park with George. A musical about George Seurat. So that's my favorite. Noah, what about you?
I'd say maybe Annie, and also
Awesome, thank you very much. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel Beardsley, and I'm wondering, I would like to ask about the upcoming comics and novels in the Stranger Things universe, because I know we're getting a comic about Will's time in the Upside Down, and a novel about Terry Ives before the events of Stranger Things, and I'm wondering if, like, do you know anything about this, or if you could see a comic or a novel, what would you have it be about? Like, because we know Hopper had he fought in the Vietnam War in the past, and there's all sorts of interesting things we could talk about, so.
I know that Noah and I get no money from any of this. I actually just saw it announced on Twitter. That's how weird things like this are for us. Like, you know, even like the Monopoly game and the the Ouija board and stuff. I never got any of that. Nobody told me about any of that. And like somebody showed up in Target and took a picture and was like, "Oh look, your face is on the Monopoly game in Target." So I don't know anything about anything, but I love Dark Horse is doing it, which is the Hellboy distributor. So Dark Horse comics are really dark and rich and like amazing. The art's amazing. So I'm really excited to see what they do. I know nothing about the storylines of them. I'm fascinated by what they're allowed to do with Terry Ives and all that stuff, but I know nothing about them. Do you know anything about them?
No. I'm excited.
Yeah, I would love to see Hopper backstory stuff. I mean, and you actually may see that in the series, you know. Hopper, as you see in those boxes in the basement, he did go to Vietnam. He was a cop in New York City. and one of the boxes was named Dad, so he clearly has some father issues himself. So there's a lot of backstory with how it can be explored. I would love to see it in a graphic novel or in a series itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I was just wondering, what is one of your favorite scenes that you filmed in Stranger Things?
For me, I would probably say, oh, there's a few. There's a lot. I'd say my favorite, everyone's quiet. I'd say probably, the first one in season 1 where we're all playing D&D, that was a lot of fun to film. And then in season 2 in the end when they were getting the monster out of me was a lot of fun and very tiring to film too. That's it.
For me, my favorite scene to film was in season 1, episode 5, I think, when I'm looking for the bug in my trailer, and I tear apart the trailer. That was a really fun day.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I wanted to ask, are there going to be more scenes with Will and Eleven together in season 3? So is there going to be a friendship between them or something? Because they've like never spoken. So.
We're not, I'm just the bodyguard. We're not allowed to tell you anything about season 3, but go ahead.
Yeah, we are.
You spill it then, because the Netflix executives always come after me.
Eleven cheats on her. I can't spoil anything, but hopefully. I can't say anything, don't take my word for it.
Look, I think a lot of the things that you guys, one of the great things about the show is, I think that you as fans, for better and for worse, influence the show tremendously.
Yeah.
So the pairings that you want to see, the things that you want to see, I think that the writers are very conscious of that. And I think that the fandom has spoken about a lot of different things. And so I think you'll see pairings that you want to see, like Will and Eleven and different things like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over here.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I was wondering, what would be your dream role to play as an actor?
What would be your dream role to play as an actor?
As a what?
As an actor.
I mean, I've always wanted to play Spider-Man. I've said this. It's so cool. You get to swing around and just have so much fun. Doesn't that sound so fun?
The original comic book writer is William Shakespeare. He writes these like big epic tales, and there's a character called Coriolanus, who is some people have read this play. That's insane. It's so obscure. He's a Roman general who's an amazing general. He protects Rome, but he doesn't believe in democracy. He believes that the smart, strong people should rule and that the masses are dumb and weak. So he's a very complicated guy to get behind. We kind of don't like him, but it's a brilliant, brilliant play. I'd highly recommend you read it, and I would love to play that role one day.
You weren't saying that Shakespeare wrote Spider-Man, right?
No, I was saying that Shakespeare's the original comic. He was the original author of Spider-Man, yes. The tragedy of Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man, I knew him well.
Thank you very much. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. How did you guys feel when you got accepted as the part of your character?
How did you feel whenever you got accepted as that character that you were cast in for Stranger Things?
I mean, it was my first. I remember when I got the role. I go to a camp in the summer, and I remember when they called me while I was at the camp, and they told me you got the role of Will, and at first I was confused because I didn't know what they were talking about, and then they explained this is for a show called Stranger Things, and I was so excited. It was my first TV show. It was on Netflix. I don't know how to explain it. I was just freaking out. I was so happy.
Yeah, my story is a little different. I've been auditioning thousands of times, not getting anything. I had a bit of a rocky road. Like there was a sort of a moment where I was gonna get it, and then that moment there was a week where they were really up in the air about me. And I remember that week being horrible and calling my agents every day and being like, call them on the phone and yell at them. And then I got a call from the Duffer Brothers who created the show at like 11 o'clock at night on a Friday, and they just wanted to say, we know it's not business hours, but we just love you, we want you to be our hopper. And I was just ecstatic and really happy. Because I love the pilot, and I love the show, and even if I wasn't in it, I would love the show just like you guys love the show. I'm such a fan, but I would also be so mad at the guy who got us. Furious.
Okay, so my name's Elani, and I have two questions for you. What's your favorite prop you've used, and who causes the most chaos on set?
Wow, those are great questions. My favorite prop, I don't know if you can call it a prop, but is Hopper's Blazer. That car, the sheriff mobile, the police chief mobile. That thing is fun. It's really fun to drive. I drive it really fast right next to cameramen. They always tell me to slow down, and I always say no. What was the second part of that?
Who causes the most chaos on set?
Oh, who causes the most chaos on set?
11.
Well, for the prop, I'd say a walkie-talkie. Even though I haven't used it much, probably that. And then chaos, I'd say me and Millie, or Millie and I. We're just...
I concur.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right over here.
Hello, my name is Shelly Bell.
Barb!
It's you!
She's back!
Barb, I'm sorry! I'm so sorry! This is the reason why I couldn't look for you. I was looking for this.
It's just an illusion. Everyone has to move on.
Oh boy.
Sorry, for you. I'm sorry. Take your time. I'll just vamp.
Okay, so my question is kind of like split into two, but it's like one kind of. So we're both of you. How do you balance like acting in your personal life and like for now like school? How do you balance that? Oh wait, and do you think you're good at it or?
How do you balance acting and school in between the two? And she also added, are you good at it?
That's a good question. I mean, it's definitely tough, but I do it. It's a lot because school in itself is kind of a career in itself for a kid, and also having to balance acting with it is definitely it's if you really love acting, you're gonna have to do that. And I go to a regular school when I'm not acting, and I love it. But when I go out of my school, they send me my work, and then I don't know how I'd say. Sometimes I'm not though, and I procrastinate like we all do, and it's harder when acting is there too, because it's harder to focus on your work.
Yeah.
But I do it.
That's good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's encouraging. Awesome. Right here.
Hello. What point did you cross and you realized that this was going to be a bigger show than you anticipated it originally was going to be?
After you, sir.
Okay. Well, for me, like I said, I go to a camp in the summer, and while I was at camp, it's kind of like a bubble, and you don't have any electronics, so when the show came out in the middle of the summer, and everyone was just blowing up, and everything was just changing, and I had no clue what was going on, and I remember I came out of camp in the middle of August, and I came back, and I had like 200,000 followers, and I was verified, and people were saying hi to me on the street, and I was just so confused. I was like, what happened? Is this a good show? Do people watch this? And it just, then I realized when I came back, I was like, wow, people love this show. And I didn't expect it.
No. I didn't think we'd get a second season.
Yeah.
The first show on Netflix to get canceled after one season. No, I have a cell phone. Whatever, no big deal. And that cell phone has about 150 numbers in it, of which I have like 5 friends. But every time I meet someone random, like like some guy I went to high school with 1 million years ago, I take their number and then I never use it. And there were like 150 numbers, and I remember, like, I've done a lot of work, I've had a lot of shows come out, and you'll get like 2 of your friends will text you, and that weekend, that July 15th weekend, by Sunday, every number on that telephone had texted me that had my number, and was like, holy, I won't curse, because there's lots of children in the audience, but they said, holy cow, Stranger Things is amazing. And I knew at that point, I was like, this is very different from anything else I've ever done. And people respond to this in a really beautiful way. And I didn't expect it, but I knew that it was beautiful in a different way. But you never know if people are going to get that or not. And people really did. And I was so happy and proud and just like over the moon about it.
Awesome.
Right over here.
Hello, my name is Jackson, and my question is, out of season 1 and season 2 of Stranger Things, which one was your favorite and why?
I like season 1 better. I love them both. It's hard to choose your favorite child, but I like the younger one. Because there's something about it that's a little more pained and a little more lonely and a little more like a Stephen King, it feels a little more pained and lonely. And I think that the second season is sort of wild and more swashbuckling, and I like that for itself. But to me, because I'm a pained and lonely guy, I like the first season better. Oh, it's okay, don't worry.
I would say I love them both a lot, but I think I love the first season more too. Even though I had a bigger role in the second season, watching the first season was it was nostalgic for me, even though I wasn't alive in the 80s, which is a weird thing to say. But I don't know how to explain it, but that's how I felt, and I loved the first season, and it's the original. How can you not love the season 1 of Stranger Things? But I also like season 2.
Hi Noah, hi David, I'm Jada. So my question is, if you could be any animal in the world, what animal would you be and why?
Any animal?
Yeah.
I'd be a big old grizzly bear, because that's what
I would be, I forget what it's called. It's a sugar glider? They're like a flying squirrel.
Yeah, they're like a flying squirrel. Generally like the almost a little nose.
Good question.
Thank you very much. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Leanna. If you could bring one back from the dead, would you choose Barb or Bob?
I'd bring Barb back in a heartbeat. That was horrible.
Bob was meant to die. I think everyone would say Barb. No?
No, Bob was wonderful. It's just,
No, I love
got in my way a little bit emotional. Yeah, Barb.
Thank you very much. Right over here.
In season 3, do you think there's going to be any justice for Muse?
We're not going to spend all 8 episodes talking about the cat. There might be I think there's also justice for Yertle. Did anyone remember Yertle? Yertle's Dustin's turtle that he puts on the floor after he puts the Demogorgon thing in the aquarium, and we never see where that turtle goes. So there's an entire Dark Horse comics about that turtle's journey. You're the upside down. Closing the gate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name's Cal. When you were on set together, would you say you were more like a parent and
The two of us? I hope more like parent and kid. I mean, I know that during the first season, I think I freaked the kids out a little bit because I was angry and weird. Like an uncle should be, or like a dad or whatever. I mean, you know, come on, I'm not your friend, I'm your dad.
I'd say brother.
But now it's softened.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Great question.
Right over here.
Hi. If you could connect with any character, like who are you most like in the show?
I would connect with your phone, because you're recording us right now. If we could connect with who?
If you could connect, like if you were
Any
similar
character
to
who
any
you most
character.
like.
Who are we as people most alike as characters? Okay.
I'd say 11 in a weird way. Like, I don't have superpowers or anything, but I think... No, because she's like a weirdo and a freak, and I guess... No, don't say aw, it's supposed to...
Awkward.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good. Weirdos shall inherit the earth. I think for me, it was when I was younger, it was Will. I think that I most identified with. I was the kid who was, I feel like Will is, I mean, I don't mean to speak for your character, but I think he's very sensitive, and I was very sensitive, and people thought I was, you know, it's changed. People thought I was a little weirdo, and like, you know, I kept to myself a little bit, and people didn't understand me, so I really identified with Will, which is why one of the most fun things about the first season in terms of saving him was that it felt like a very personal journey for Hopper and for me, just to save the young kid that I felt like I was.
Thank you very much. Right over here.
There's a lot of children here. Hi there, my name's Alin. I have a question. So, out of all of the episodes that you taped, which scene freaked you out the most? Like, what gave you nightmares? What gave you the EGBs?
Watching it or shooting it?
No, well, I guess both. You know, when you shot it, when you went home after shooting that day, what were you like, oh my god, that's disgusting?
I know watching the show, the scene that freaks me out the most is when that little girl, when Miss Wheeler, the young Wheeler child, I forget what her name is right now, Holly, I don't interact with her much. When Holly walks down the hallway in Joyce's house and goes into the room with all the lights flickering and the wall starts to move, that gave me chills when I watched it. I mean, it's right out of those Poltergeist movie, and it's really scary. In terms of filming, I don't really get that freaked out anymore.
Yeah, it's not scary.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just a guy in a rubber suit with goo all over him. It just is kind of silly. When it's all put together, it's scary as hell when we watch it. But when we're shooting it, it's different.
I'd say for me to watch is like, I don't know why, but I think it's the first scene of the first season where the guy's running down the hallway and the lights are flickering. I get chills when I watch that scene. And filming is not scary, it's all like fake. But I'd say, it's disgusting. I've had to, in season 1 when I spit out the slug, that was gross because I had to hold just a bunch of, a mix of just, I don't know what, it was like applesauce and licorice and, yeah, it was not good. I hate licorice.
Right over here.
Hi, I'm Josephine. I have 2 questions. One is, what's your favorite music to listen to? And the second is, will Hopper and Will spend any time together in season 3?
Will Hopper and Will spend any time together?
Yeah.
I mean, look. Let's just put it this way. Hopper and Eleven are their own little family, Jane and Jim Hopper. And then there's Joyce Byers, Jonathan Byers, and Will Byers, right? And I just have a feeling that these 2 families you know. Have real affection for each other.
Including Joyce and Paul.
They got a lot of ego, those two. And then, what kind of music do I listen to? I got a band for you. There's this wonderful musician called Alison Sudol, and she has a band called The Fine Frenzy. And I love that music. If you follow my Instagram, you can probably see why.
I love California.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your question. Right over here.
Hi, my name's Lauren. This is going to be kind of extra, but my birthday's in 2 days, and I was wondering if I could record it if you guys sing Happy Birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Lauren.
Lauren. Happy birthday. Oh.
Our voices are cracking.
Wait, how old are you turning? How old are you turning?
16.
Oh.
Good luck with the driving test.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Bye.
Right over here.
Hi, I'm Lucia. My question is, was there any experiences that made you decide to start acting, and what did you do to get better?
Made us what, Ryan?
What experiences did you have that made you want to do acting? I believe is the question.
Yeah, and then what helped you get better?
And what helped you get there? Right? Okay.
I mean, ever since I was a kid, I think you can tell I'm kind of a hammy guy. I like attention. And then that changed when I felt like I wanted to understand people better. I wanted to understand why they did what they did. People were confusing to me. So I started to explore that, and that got me into, acting characters that do different things than me, and sort of asking the question of why they do that. And for me, like when I was your age, how old are you?
About to be 14.
About to be 14. So you're a freshman in high school?
I'm actually going into 8th grade, but...
Okay, yeah, 8th grade, yeah. So when I was a freshman in high school, I started doing plays in the high school. And I just did plays and little community theater, and I just always did as many plays as I could to try to just work, just try to act and learn from that. And then the other thing is taking classes, which I still take acting classes to this day, because I believe that I'm a student of acting still.
For me, I always saw it just as a fun thing to try out, and I did it for fun, and I took an acting class with my sister. I did a few in the city, I did some local stuff, I did plays, and it was all kind of a fun thing that I just loved doing. And then one day, I did it for a few years, and then it turned into kind of, I think it's my acting teacher who told me, Noah, I feel like you would be good at doing this professionally. And she talked to my parents, and we talked about it, and then I got into it professionally, and I was so happy that I could be able to do something that I love, and it was professional, and I could make a career out of something that I enjoy doing. So I kept doing it, and it was tough at first, because it was a lot of auditions for small things, like audiobooks and commercials, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm not too into this, and then it started to become movies and TV shows and really exciting roles, and I really got excited about it, so I kept doing it, and here I am today.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Krisha, and I was wondering if you could work with any other actor or actress, who would it be and why?
That's a great question. Actor, actress. There's so many. I mean, there's so many. I just love so many different actors. I mean, I don't know why this one is springing to the top of my head, but he's such a strange, wonderful being, and he just retired from acting, apparently, so I don't know, but there's an actor called Daniel Day-Lewis. very intense individual, and I hear the way he works is very intense. I hear he goes a little crazy and gets very method and stuff, and I kind of like people that do that. So that's what I like.
For me, I'm just a huge fan of her. Her name's Shailene Woodley. And I'd love to work with her on anything.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, my name's Alyssa. If you were thrown into a Hogwarts house, which house would it be?
Hogwarts house. Which Hogwarts house would you be part of, right?
I already know the answer to this question because I went on Pottermore. I did the thing.
I never did.
Well, you gotta do it.
No.
And I am a Gryffindor. What's that?
She has a present for you. She'd like to give it to you.
You have a present for Gryffindor? For me? Or for Noah? For what?
For you and the rest of the cast.
Oh yeah, bring it up!
So sweet.
Thank you for that.
Oh, it's one for everyone on the
Oh, it's bracelets and Stranger Things.
I'm gonna wear Will's though, so.
Fine, I'll wear yours.
That is so cool. That's awesome. That is so cool. Give one more round of applause. Awesome. Right over here, we're gonna keep going.
Hi, my name is Erica, and I was wondering what the weirdest thing that you have ever filmed before the special effects were added in. So, like when you were throwing up the slug, for example, like weird things like that.
I just did a movie called Hellboy, and it's a big old, I don't know if you know Hellboy, but he's a big old demon comic booky guy. So he beats up a lot of monsters that are bigger than him, and I had to beat up a lot of monsters that were bigger than me that were, some parts of them were practical, and then some parts of them were just blue that the computer was going to fill in later. So there were scenes with me punching blue pillows all day. And that was weird.
Oh, it was,
Special effects.
Oh, definitely for Stranger Things. There was so I mean, the scene on the field where the monster was going inside my ears and my nose and my eyes, that was a crazy CGI scene, and I remember the camera was attached to this spinning thing with, it was all green screen and like a circle around me, and it just kept spinning around me, and they had like a lot of green screen. It's hard to explain, but it was crazy. They had to use a lot of CGI. I mean, this show is a lot of CGI.
it's awesome. Thank you very much for your question.
I have two questions not related to the show. For one, Noah, if you had to be anyone from Spider-Man other than Peter Parker, who would you be?
Ooh. I would probably be, oh, I know, I'd be his best friend. Yeah. I love him. He's like the funniest, most relatable guy. Definitely.
And one more question for all of you guys. Have you guys ever met Bill Skarsgård?
Who?
The guy who played Pennywise.
Oh no, but I think Finn Wolfhard met him. The guy who played Pennywise in the new It. Bill Skarsgård. I mean, Finn did the movie with him, so I think Finn met him. I met his brother. He beat me for a Golden Globe. I'm not bitter.
Doesn't sound like it at all. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and
I kind of have like 2 questions. So the first one's for Noah, and it was, how did you feel when you found out you were in the In My Feelings music video?
Oh.
And the second one is, if you could have anyone else in Stranger Things, who would you want, like actor or actress?
If I could have anyone in Stranger Things?
Like any actor or actress in the show.
Like just have them?
I'd like to tie them up in the garage.
Okay. No time.
You're in Stranger Things?
Okay. Now the first question is what? Oh yeah. I remember I was on set and Millie just told me that she was like, oh no, guess what? You're gonna be in Drake's new music video. And I was like, what? And she was like, oh, let me show you the clip. And she showed it to me and I don't know how to explain how excited, I mean, you just have to see me. I was freaking out, I was speechless. I mean, it's Drake. Wow, I was so happy. And then I watched it later and I showed my mom and she thought I just made it all up. And then she watched the video herself and then she was very happy for me too. And who could I?
I think if we both would want to have Drake in
yeah,
Just the soundtrack, just the soundtrack.
What? Just what?
Just the soundtrack, so the music is all Drake's.
No, just holding Drake in the garage and Stranger Things. Just having him in the show, having him.
Who would I put in the garage? I'd say. I think Tom Hanks belongs in the garage.
Thank you very much. Right over here. If there's the next person.
Three Musketeers, are you?
What costume?
You can lift the microphone up if you need to.
Yeah.
And go towards you. There you go.
Hey.
Hi. For Noah, I was wondering, what was it like filming the scene where the big shadow monster was like coming into your
Yeah.
mouth?
I mean, it was definitely a challenge because I had nothing to really act off of or bounce off of when I was doing that whole scene. And in the field, when I was screaming at the monster to go away, I was just yelling at the sky. So it was definitely, it was weird. It was something new for me because I was literally just talking to like the sky and the grass and that's about it. And it was definitely tough, but I didn't know how it would turn out, but after watching it, I'm proud of how it turned out.
I was also wondering when you were in the tunnel in season 2, like, what was that like? Like, running around in a loopy tunnel.
It was tiring, and I got banged up a lot. There's that scene where they pull me down, the ropes like pull me down, and they kind of make a mummy of me. And we did that practically. So basically, you have like 4 big burly guys with ropes around your chest, and they just pull you, and you just go down like that. And so I hurt myself a little bit, but it was, that's like part of the fun of the job, is like to get banged up and feel like you're a real hero.
Thank you.
So, both of you, what was like the weirdest line or like funniest line you ever said? Like, what do you think was the funniest?
The funniest line? I like when Hopper is, in the first season, when he goes over to see the burnt phone of Joyce's, and he's like, it's probably the storm, like it's not a big deal. And she goes, you don't think that's storm, you don't think that's weird? And he goes, yeah, it's weird. That was my favorite line.
I'd probably say Dustin. We were filming a scene and it was late at night, and it's when he was chasing me with the X-Men 1 through 4 thing, and he was I forget, I raced off, and then he like stopped and he was like and he said a bad word.
We say it in the show, if you guys have seen the show.
Yeah.
You said a bad word, and then that was it. But that was your funniest thing.
I love that.
Clearly, if you want to make Noah laugh, just say curse words at him.
No, it was just the timing, and it just worked out. Okay?
Sorry, I misinterpreted that. I apologize.
Who do you like most relate to on the show? Like as a character or like an actor that works on the show?
So like as a person.
Yeah.
So how we relate, like me as a person relates to a character.
Yeah.
I'd say 11, because she's just a freak like me.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just because we're in the last 10 minutes, and I know we still have a decent line on both sides, I want to try and limit everybody to one question, so that way we can get through as many people as possible to keep it as fair as possible, okay? So we're going to keep continue right over here.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I love you both so much. But as an actor, what was like the hardest scene for you to film?
Season 1 or season 2?
Both.
Okay. I think for me it was that last scene in season 1 where he's resuscitating Will, and it was probably the hardest for Will too, because I beat the crap out of the kid that day when he's like doing the compressions, because there's a lot of intensity, and we were down in a basement of this library, and it was really hot, and we were in these suits that were very uncomfortable, and the scene's very emotional and very intense, and it was covered in that goo and those vines and everything. So I just remember being a very intense day, and sometimes, so it was difficult, but sometimes that difficulty can make for a great scene, because I thought that scene was like, that end of episode 8 in season 1, I really cried my eyes out when 11 explodes and when Hopper saves Will. I love that part, so I was very proud of that scene, but it was very difficult to shoot.
Yeah. For me, it's probably in season 2 when I have a few. It's probably one of them is when I'm telling. One of them is the last scene in season 2 where the monster's coming out of me. That was just it was like 4 in the morning when we were filming that scene. We went all night. I was just really tired. There was a lot of screaming, and I just had to really stay in it for every take. And it was just a very, very intense scene. And also probably the scene on the field, because that was also, they're always at night, and I'm always, actually no, I'm a night owl, so I love filming at night. And it was very intense too, and then I'd say both of those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Grace. I have a question. Is it ever hard to kind of balance your social life and then trying to film like keeping your fans over here and then trying to also hang out with your friends?
Yeah, it's very hard. It's impossible. I have no social life. I think shooting takes up a lot of energy, and acting takes up a lot of energy. And I know it's really fun when you watch it, but actually it's very hard work, and it's very hard to stay with it and stuff. So it is difficult to balance. And you have to travel all over the world and do different things, and so it's a lot of being in airports and stuff like that. And so it can be difficult on that, but it's something that I'm so grateful to be able to share with the world. It's what I'm built to do, I think, so everything else in my life kind of takes a backseat to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a big sacrifice, and you do it because you love it. But I think, for me, yeah, because like I said, I go to a school in New York, and while I'm there, I get to see my friends and my family, but while I'm filming in Atlanta, it's tougher because there's just so much time and work you have to spend into this show, and it's harder to be away from my friends and my family. But I mean, like I said, it's a sacrifice to be able to do this.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I have some questions about Joyce and Hopper.
About Joyce and Hopper?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So, I feel like they have a natural chemistry, from smoking in the hallways, and Hopper's gone. I'm so sad about Bob. And so what's gonna happen now? It's Joyce and Bob.
I love the fans of Stranger Things. That's what I'm saying. Because how old are you? 12 years old. The fact that a 12-year-old is really interested in some middle-aged couple. And you all are like 12 years old who are like get down with the jumper thing. I can't believe that. It really is incomprehensible to me. But I love it. And look, I don't want to give anything away, but all I will say is, you know, I think they've clearly had some kind of relationship when they were in high school, right? They smoked those cigarettes under the bleachers, and and you know, they clearly are sort of upset with each other, as many people who have deep feelings about each other can sometimes be upset with each other. And so, you know, I root for them as well. And as I said, like, I think you're going to see a lot of fun stuff in season 3 that you guys want to see.
Hi, I'm Sophia. If you guys weren't actors, what do you think you would be doing, or what would you want to be doing?
I mean, for me, right now, I probably wouldn't have a job. But in the future, if I wasn't an actor, I'd probably want to be a doctor. I feel like it's just something that really, I love science and math, and it really interests me. And I feel like I would really enjoy it if I wasn't doing this.
I probably wouldn't have a job too. I'd be very unmotivated because I love acting very much. But I'm very into psychology as well, so I'd probably be a therapist of some sort. I'm very into the brain, I'm very into, you know, and also I've spoken a little bit about the fact that I have bipolar disorder, and so I'm very into mental illness causes and things like that, and I love the mentally ill. So I would definitely want to do that, but I'd like to get more involved in that if I had more time.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Unfortunately, this is going to be our last question that we have because we are running out of time. I know, I'm sorry.
What?
No!
We are, so this is going to be our last question right over here. What's your name?
Molly, hi. Out of the 2 seasons, which scene was the hardest to film? Or like took the longest, I guess?
Took the longest?
Or, yeah.
Yeah. I remember being up in that grate thing, closing the gate with me and 11. That took a long time because we had to raise that thing up. It swung. Millie got sick a couple times. It was a very difficult scene. It took us a couple days to shoot that whole thing. A lot of guns firing and stuff like that. So that took a long time. Probably took the longest for me.
Okay.
For me, probably the scene. Oh, everyone's leaving. No one cares.
I know.
The scene at the, I'll go quick before everyone leaves. The scene at the end of season 2, where they're getting the monster out of me, we literally went from 8 p.m. to 7 in the morning. But it turned out great. Thank you.